Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of Bet CaneSport with Lee Stirling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes from the betting standpoint. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, with Lee Stirling himself of ParamountSports.com. If you want to get all of the latest and greatest prognostications in the world of sports, all you got to do is go to that website you see at the bottom of the screen, ParamountSports.com. Use that phone number, 1-800-400-9741. You might just get Lee himself to answer the phone for you and hook you up with a nice little package so you could start getting a little help and making some money. But we're a little wounded here this week, Lee, a little wounded because after 4 weeks of big Miami Hurricane covers, we finally fell into that trapdoor last Friday night at Hard Rock Stadium. Virginia Tech came up big, played what I thought was a phenomenal game. Mm-hmm. The heat in the stadium was stifling. It didn't affect them as much as you would have expected. It should have been a huge home field advantage for Miami. It did not turn out that way. And the bettors who chose Miami got burned. It happens in sports. Tell us about it. Your thoughts.
Well, they played the best game by far this year. They had a couple games last year where they played well, and a lot of people thought a lot of this Virginia Tech team that returned like, I think, 20 or 21 starters, but their game plan was great. Their energy was great. Their execution was excellent. And I always told you, Miami, we're not right there. We're not a top 5 team. The defense, as we now know, if they were probably going to play in Alabama, Tennessee, let's see who else, Ohio State, teams with really good wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, they're probably going to be able to score, probably mid-20s to maybe 40, 45 points on us. I mean, let's just face facts. So the offense, I still believe, can score mid-20s or more on any team in college football. I don't think there's a defense that can totally hold us down. So we might just have to win some high-scoring games. But, sometimes you need a game like that. I mean, even the great teams that Miami had. Think back to a couple of the national championship teams. 83, I think they beat it was like West Virginia 10-9 or FSU 10-9. The 2001 team barely beat Boston College, who was a nothing. So, great teams or very good teams win a lot of close games and give the team credit. What was crazy was I thought that they could have called a pass interference on our defensive back, number 25, who was running back in front of the receiver. I thought they were going to make a call there, but I thought the call was wrong to begin with. It should have been an incompletion, and they ruled it a catch. I thought that they were not going to overrule it, but so you never can tell what's going to happen. I'm usually pretty good on being able to tell whether they're going to overrule it or not overrule it. But the video, the whatever different cameras they had on it were not great angles. So one of the craziest games, but it's a win's a win. We didn't cover. We live to fight another day.
All right. So before we get into this week's game with Cal, this is the dilemma of guys like yourself that are in your business. Okay. You have a pattern of blowout victories. Miami's on top of the world. Cam Ward leading the Heisman race. It's just a festival of success and happiness, and everybody's euphoric. But Lee Stirling has to go to the next week. And for whatever reason, and I'll let you maybe explain this a little bit, but there's the consistency of performance in sports, even at the NFL level, is just not there. I mean, right. You watch a team play an unbelievable game one week and they can't replicate it the next. Maybe they turn the ball over. Maybe they get some penalties. Maybe the other team gets out. There's so many variables. And that's why in your business, if you can hit 55% of your picks, you're a superstar. You're being flown out to Vegas for the handicapping contests and stuff. Talk about what you go through on a week-to-week basis to try to get these games right.
Well, I mean, I'm looking for an edge. Like, for instance, my biggest play for my clients last week was Kansas State. And they had a couple possessions in the second quarter that were horrible. They actually fell behind 13-7. In the end, they ended up blowing them out. I think it was 42-20. I think that Oklahoma State scored a late touchdown, but it was like 42-13. They shut them out until the last couple minutes. But even if you're looking at certain things, I look at it from a standpoint, if I was the offensive coordinator, how would I attack a defense? And sometimes I see things that an offensive coordinator doesn't, or they don't want to show certain things. So, it's an inexact science. Sometimes these kids just play horrible. There's a game. Let's talk about, we're going to talk about these two teams today. Cal, who Miami's playing, and when they played FSU. Cal was probably the better team that day. They had to settle, I think, for maybe 3 or 4 field goals. I think maybe it was 4 field goals that game. They had 2 more possessions where they got nothing, and they might even miss a field goal. They were in the red zone the whole game. I think the last time they had it in the red zone and couldn't score anything. Better team, but just couldn't do it in the red zone. I do watch the fourth quarter. Fourth quarters to me are more important than any other time in a game. And also a lot of these games against junk teams, if Miami's playing Florida A&M or Bethune-Cookman, very little that you can glean from that game. So at least every team has played 1 and maybe 2 pretty good teams. Miami has played a South Florida team and a Virginia Tech team who both are at least average to above average. And Cal has played Auburn, which, even though not great this year, a respectable SEC team, and also played at Florida State. So by studying those game tapes, I think I've got a pretty good idea what's going to happen.
All right. So this game this week started with a 13-point line. Miami favored by 13 and has come down to 10.5. Why do you think the line has come backwards?
Well, Miami wins the game last week by 3 or 4 touchdowns. The line is sitting at 15, 16, maybe 16.5 points. Now they feel that Miami's come down to earth. Teams have some film on them, and also Cal had an extra week to prepare for this game. Game day's there. You throw in things like that. They'll sell more tickets, and the crowd will be more juiced. So, Miami. No team is perfect. You can watch Georgia. They look terrible. They were losing 28-0 in that game. I had Alabama. I'm thinking after 28-0, 30, I think it was 33-7 after the middle of the third quarter, they pin a safety and another field goal. Easy win. Sure enough, they're losing with 2.5 minutes to go in the game. So
crazy.
It's gambling, it's sports. These are young kids. Anything can happen. This isn't a heavyweight fight with Muhammad Ali fighting, some complete bum. These are some pretty good teams and Cal, they have some really good players when they're healthy, not to Miami standards, but when you study them, the quarterback, so I've seen this quarterback a couple of times, Fernando Mendoza, played a lot of times after I finish doing all my shows on Friday. I just need an hour and a half, 2 hours just to get some fresh air, watch some high school football. And then sometimes I'll go to games. I'm not going to go see my alma mater, Palmer, which is terrible now for some of these other teams, but I'll go see a Columbus. I'll go see a Central. I'll go see a Carroll City, a St. Thomas, schools like that, American Heritage, because a lot of these guys are going on to the next level. A couple of my friends are also referees, so stand on the sideline, talk to them, before the game or halftime. And there's also some head coaches and sometimes or some assistants from different teams, and you can find out some info. And I'm just watching and observing. I've seen this kid. He's a pretty good kid, but if he's at Miami, he'll never start. I mean, unless a couple kids probably get injured. Now, Jaden Ott, their top running back from the last couple of years, really good talent, but he's had an ankle problem. He's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Their top 4 receivers, no burners. I mean, we know that our secondary isn't great. So if, we faced an Ohio State that has 2 guys that are going to get picked at wide receiver, the top 7, 8 in the draft probably, those are guys that can really hurt us. They're going to have to throw a lot of underneath stuff. Mendoza's going to have to buy some time probably. We're going to bring the heat. Now with Bain back, I think that helps us out. Also, we had 3-4 guys go out during that game last week. But Cal also, there's one thing also that leans maybe Miami's the right side. they get plays off at a fast pace. I was shocked at this. They used to play at a slow pace. They're number 13 in the country. They're getting off 76.7 plays per game. Miami is 59 at 69.3. If you're laying a big number, normally, if you're not in the top 20, top 30, look out. You don't want to lay the number here. But Cal likes to play at a fast pace, even a faster pace at home. So if they do that, generally when you play at a fast pace, more possessions, generally the better team, unless they turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, usually wins and usually will cover, 58, 60% of the time. I'm going to lay the 10.5 points. I have Miami winning this game, pulling away 45-28.
You mentioned game day.
Yeah.
Does that really factor into the line? Game day's presence for the fight?
Yeah, maybe another point. I mean, the students are going to be more excited. I don't know. I've never done a study and seen how many of their students actually show up at the game. Some other schools, I have a pretty good idea. And they, these SEC schools, every game is pretty much sold out. I know that their stadium here, let me see what this. So it holds 63,000. They probably average 40, 45. They might have 55,000 at this game here.
Right,
Miami. I don't know if Miami has Miami ever played there at all. You would know that.
They have, but it's been a while.
Yeah. So they get a top 10 team. Miami's a marquee name. Game day, the kids, they're friends. When my daughter was cheering for the University of Miami, she had friends coming in from Florida State, Central Florida, when we played Notre Dame that one time, just to be, near game day and to go to the game. So it's an exciting thing for these kids. I'll be turning it on. I'm not going to the game like you, but I'll be turning it on at 6 a.m. out there. And these kids some of them will probably camp out all night or get there really early and have a good time. That's what college football is all about, the pageantry, the excitement.
I can't believe I'm gonna have to wake up at 6 o'clock if I want to watch it.
Right.
That is total insanity.
When I'm on the West Coast, I usually end up getting up early anyway. So
probably.
You might have a tough time staying up and doing all the interviews late night.
Yeah,
so it's fun. It's fun. You'll have a good time. It's different, and I just think Miami's too much. Also, another thing I looked up, Cam Ward, he faced them last year. His team lost 42-39, but with very little talent, they scored 39 points. Now, pretty much their same defense. They returned 8 guys from last year. Nothing special. Also, Damian Martinez played on an Oregon State team that scored 52 points on them.
Yep.
So I do think they're a little bit better this year, but they haven't played anyone talented. Auburn was rotating 2 quarterbacks in that game. They were awful. I think they turned the ball over 4 times. Auburn's turned the ball over 15 times in 5 games, average of 3 times a game, and Florida State has no offense. So this is the first game where they're going to face some big-time receivers, some big-time running backs, a better offensive line, and as we know, a potential Heisman hopeful quarterback.
And a Miami team that had a wake-up call last week.
Right.
That figures to be, they didn't play very well. And you got guys on the defensive line, for example, that are being counted on a lot and had been playing very well early in the season that didn't really show up in that Virginia Tech game very well.
How many missed tackles? A lot.
17.
Trust me, they'll be in pads at least once or twice this week.
No doubt. 17 missed tackles. Cam Ward threw 2 interceptions and had a fumble. I expect Miami to be much more focused and better in this game as well. So I'll piggyback you on this one. And I like Miami as well. Let's go to a game that, I mean, you and you have it circled. I'm right there with you. That's Clemson at Florida State. Clemson's offense has been really good this season. Florida State has been horrendous. They were embarrassingly bad at SMU last week. And now their quarterback, who wasn't playing very well anyway, has a broken finger that's going to keep him out of this game, which means that now they got to start a kid by the name of Brock Glenn, who we last saw at the end of last year in their bowl game, who was absolutely horrendous. I think Florida State's in big trouble this week against Clemson. What do you think, Lee?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, even with much better talent last year, in that bowl game, the kid looked like, he just overwhelmed. So now, even though the game's at home, the fans there are really into the game. Clemson will travel well. Last couple of weeks, I told people, look out, this Clemson team's starting to come together. That first half against Georgia, they should have had the lead by 10 to 14 points. Just didn't work out that way. But you can tell that Dabo is very happy. If you saw their, I think it was at halftime. I don't know if it was this game or last game. They interviewed him. He said, yep, we've been practicing better. These kids are really starting to come together. They're explosive. Couple, I don't know if they're probably some mid-round picks, which has been more than they've had at wide receiver the last couple of years. They've got a really good running back, and the quarterback, Klubnik, is finally some of his passes, most of them have been right on the money. I don't care if it was App State, North Carolina State, Stanford. He has looked great the last 3 weeks. So sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. I like Clemson here. I think they win this game something like 41-14.
Yep. All right. The line is 14.5 in that game. So, Clemson looks like a strong cover there. And then there was another game that kind of is on the radar a little bit. Not the greatest week in college football this week, but this Tennessee team has captured the interest of a lot of people with the way they've played early this season. They are laying 13.5 points on the road at Arkansas, a team that has been a little bit of a sleeper type of tricky team in the SEC. Got Bobby Petrino calling the plays there. What do you think? 13.5 points, Lee, Tennessee at Arkansas.
All right. Everyone will talk about Tennessee offense, which is really good. I mean, they got a young redshirt freshman quarterback that's a budding superstar. They've got 6 really good receivers, good scheme, but their defense is underrated. They totally shut down Oklahoma on the road. You're not going to totally shut down Arkansas. Taylor Green, the transfer quarterback from Boise, is good. Jaquindon Jackson, good running back, but they're turnover prone. They'll probably score more than Oklahoma did at home. Scored 15, I think it was Oklahoma. They'll probably score 17, 20. Here's the thing, though. This Arkansas defense, usually this time of the year, don't have a whole lot of depth, not real talented. They miss a lot of tackles. They give up 39 points in overtime to Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's offense is not good this year. Tennessee offense is good. Also, Arkansas plays at a fast pace. They're the number 1 team in pace. They went last year, they averaged getting off 70 snaps. Under Petrino, 80.8. So more than 10 snaps more per game, more snaps, hence means more possessions, more plays. Tennessee can score in like 1 or 2 plays. Arkansas, when they score, takes them 4 or 5 plays, but they're more turnover prone, and their defense just isn't very good here. So Arkansas has improved. They hung in there with A&M, but A&M's not explosive like this. So I think this is the game where the dam breaks. I like Tennessee 42-21. They double up the Hogs.
All righty, Lee. Well, another big week coming up here, and thank you so much for your wisdom. And what do you got going on at Paramount Sports for everybody?
Well, October continues. We had an 8-3 week last week from Thursday through Monday night. Went 3-0 Sunday, and on Saturday, we went 4-2. We rate our games from 10 to 50 units. We hit a 45-unit major wager best bet on Kansas State. We're 67-24 lifetime on these 40 to 50 unit best bets. So if anyone wants to hop on board, if things work out, we might have another 40 to 50 unit going this weekend.
Oh, wow.
If you use coupon code SAVE200, it's normally $4.97, brings it down to $2.97 for the 4 weeks through Thursday, October 31st, or the season. Use coupon code SAVE300, just $897. Also, we're running a promo on the UFC. There's a pay-per-view coming from Salt Lake City. Normally, it's like $57 or $77. 5 to 7 selections, $7. That's right, $7. So if you have 2, 3, or 4 TVs like I do, the pay-per-view starts at 7 o'clock our time. The card starts at 7, the pay-per-view at 10 o'clock. So you want to watch 2 things and bet on 2 things at one time, 5 to 7 selections in the UFC, just $7. One place, ParamountSports.com.
Sounds like a deal you can't refuse, folks. So there you are. You got the website and the number right there at the bottom of the screen, 1-800-400-9741. We thank everybody for watching once again this week. For Lee Stirling, I'm Gary Furman. We'll see you next time.